Welcome to Invest. We talk about investing, finance, and professional development. As the current time of 9:30 a.m. on Eastern Time on the second day of April on Sunday. Hope you guys have a good weekend so far. Ethereum got $1,813, about 0.44% so far. On the overall crypto market, as of this Sunday morning so far on the East Coast, is relatively flat, as we have been experiencing, relatively volatile last couple of weeks so far. And now it seems like we've just been consolidating on a sideways fashion, not really shifting up or down. But with respect to the technical, read on what we know so far, it is indicating more of a flat momentum, but it is leaning more towards a bearish type of sentiment, which we will dive into in a bit to understand what that is. And take a look on the news front before we dive into it. It seems like across the spectrum is relatively just trivial news. Seems like across the spectrum it's I would say mostly negative news. It seems like Starbucks fired employees responsible for igniting the Starbucks Work Union United Union campaign. It seems like the Virgin Galactic, the Virgin Orbit has collapsed despite billionaires backing and despite they have an intriguing plan, but what's really happened? Well, obviously this is a lot of catalysts that I guess accumulated to what seems like to be the collapse. But this has to do with sector rotations. This has to do with the fact that the Virgin Galactic value proposition of traveling to space is still like far reach up. Well, firstly up in the air in the sky, but also with respect to technological and the commercial adaptations, adoptions going forward as well. So it's gonna take some time, and obviously with the whole market corrections, knowing the fact that Virgin Galactic, despite a publicly traded company, is still more of a adventurous endeavor, more of a venture-like type of entity, driving it to be collapsing. And I think with respect to the high cash burn or capital expenditure that the company also require, when everything is kind of very tight on a financial perspective, the companies that are more risk more risky in terms of the technological adaptation will be more prone to vulnerability, which is what this is happening. And then other news you could see that across the spectrum is just relatively trivial news, so nothing really worth mentioning. But let's take a look at what happened in the recent time frame, as of the closing of the day of March 31st. It seems like across the spectrum was a relatively heavier sell day on BlackRock's perspective. And look at on ARK Invest as well. It seems like ARK Invest was taking a similar approach. I would say, actually, they did buy a little bit more than the selling pressure. But if you look at this, is a more of a relative exercise, right? They sold more stocks quantitatively per stocks, but in terms of the volume, I would say they bought more. Tesla, they bought more Zoom, they bought more Roku, Coinbase. So it seems like they are having a little bit of an opposition in terms of the way they are positioning themselves. But anyway, so let's dive into technical without wasting more time. Respective recording time of 9:34 a.m. on the Eastern Time, bright in the morning. We are at 1817, right? So we've been kind of gliding on a sideways fashion between 1750 to 1854. How long now? We've been here for basically close to a month. Well, almost a month, right? I mean, if you count the mini green candle that we sharply just like hit there for a little bit, we also touched this a while back, on February. But obviously, as we glide down, and the sell off was mainly due to what, like the SVB situation, which a lot of crypto firms were exposed. That spooked a lot of people, and the elevations that we had was mainly due to what, because of the fact that, us the financial sector is kind of go into turmoil and deteriorate. Crypto assets is like the direct oppositions of the financial markets, right? With respect to the banking sector specifically. So people will be fleeing more towards you know, the what they historically would call the safe haven type of assets, which Ethereum and Bitcoin are the true or other, you know, the best representation. I would say, you know, relatively speaking, Bitcoin is even more, you know, more of a stronger representative, which I'll dive into to show you guys that if you look at this relatively, Bitcoin is actually a lot more extended than Ethereum, right? And right now, why did I say that we are in a more of a bearish state? Because it seems that we're kind of leaning up like a upward wedge, and any upward wedge would translate into a bearish signal. And you could see that this is I guess it's interesting that we're kind of muted, and also with respect to the mega depth cross that we're about to form, it seems that we're more muted, right? You could see that we land and then kind of fuse together, and then subsequently get tighter and tighter and tighter. But this is an upward wedge, as you know. So what that means is that if I draw this in front of us, it will show you that you have this upward wedge, which I'm just drawing a triangle for us. And I don't know when this triangle will kind of merge together, but I'm assuming we will get there eventually, and eventually we'll get to a point where we reach an apex, and then it will basically require to kind of drop from there, which you could see that on the red line right here. So squeeze, tight, drop to a lower level. And where do we go? Ideally would be 1650 all the way to 1450. So I think like somewhere in between will be likely. And knowing the fact that we're the 60 out of 70, I think it's quite logical for it to kind of sell off back down to a more of a logical level. And then on the weekly, you could see that it's quite similar, right? You could see that we had that downward wedge, which translates to a pump. Now we have a mini upward wedge, translates into a dump. And also weekly, it is like just in need of a sell-off, right? Because of the fact that we have a large separation, we're also quite extended as well. But on a monthly, we are looking quite nice and flat, so we should indicate some sort of elevation from here. And then on Bitcoin side of the equation, we are landing as well, looking like we are about to fuse together. So it does look like we're bottoming out in a way on the monthly, which is quite prominent. But on a weekly, you can see that we are also quite separated. This looks clearly like an upward wedge, which is a quite dramatic one as well. And you could see that we were forming upward wedge, and subsequently as you break the wedge, you come down. So now it seems like we're doing that again. You know, and this is a very long, elongated pump, and this is mainly driven by what again, right? Just to remind us, the anti-correlation effects from the financial sector drive opposition effect onto people fleeing to Bitcoin, which is what we categorize as the decentralized safe havens that people are, you know, categorizing Bitcoin as. On the daily, you could see that we are also very fused together. Relatively flat, right? Very flat, looking to kind of glide up. And then you could see that with respect to the current level, we are levitating, elevating. And with respect to the 63 out of 70, we are, you know, really pushing it, right? We're not even at the next level of resistance yet, like anywhere close. The next level is 30,500. We're only at 29 at the one point that we reached the highest, where the 28,300, not even 2,500. So that also tells you that seeing it sell off back down to a more of a normalized level, somewhere around like 25, 23 would be more logical. And then lastly, take a look at the index front. SPY did open on a higher level with the 410 basically up 1.41%. So it was a relatively good day on a Friday. So take a look at this on the daily. You could see that very elongated. I think the next level resistance is going to be 413 all the way for 416. Something that we don't like is that with respect to the overall market, our size highly extended at 63 out of 70. But we are on a momentum right now, so seeing it reach to a higher level to ideally somewhere around 70 will not be a surprise for us. The weekly, it is looking a little bit less volatile, but you know, we are in need of some correction because of the fact that, you know, this is a pattern that is forming, a reverse head and shoulder, to be honest, to be specific. Head, shoulder, shoulder, and the next level we will get rejected at 415, so it's coming soon. And then as we get there, we will consolidate and form some sort of a shoulder pattern, as a secondary one, and then once we have that matching, we should ideally see some elevation from here. So appreciate you for dropping by this Sunday. Sorry for not posting as sufficient as I used to be, and my schedule has been quite daunting, so it's unfortunate, really. But I appreciate you for making time for me on this Sunday, and please look out for more videos from me in the near future as my schedule cools down a little bit. And I am planning on going to Hong Kong in May, so the scheduling will be a little bit more funky. But well, that's a month away from now. So, anyways, have a good day, and I will check you on the next one. Take care. Bye.